Andrew Bowie, the Prime Minister Theresa May is calling on the whole of the UK to unite behind Brexit. But how does the country unite behind Brexit when we don't yet know what it's going to look like?
Well, what we saw today was a Prime Minister touring the United Kingdom, trying to gather some common purpose behind a government that's working hard to deliver a Brexit that will work for all four nations of the United Kingdom. And I think what we've seen through the deal struck in the transition deal and the mood music that we're getting now from Brussels is that we're going to get a very good deal for the entire United Kingdom.
Ivan McKee, does that give you confidence that we're going to get a good deal, according to Andrew Bowie?
Absolutely not. We've seen the Prime Minister running around in circles, leading us all on a wild goose chase. They've no idea what they're doing, and they haven't had since the referendum in June 2016. The time's getting closer and closer, the clock's ticking, some huge issues that they've got no idea how they're going to resolve, and the way it's looking, we're all going to be led off the edge of a cliff. Disaster economically for Scotland and the rest of the UK.
Andrew Bowie,
I just don't recognise that view at all. Time and time again, since Article 50 was triggered, since Article 50 was triggered in March last year, all we've heard is they won't be able to get a transition deal. They won't get a good deal for EU citizens in the UK or British citizens abroad in the European Union. They won't get a good deal for business. We've achieved all of that.
Hang on a second, Ivan. Hang on.
I think it's time to put all that negativity to one side and unite behind a government that is delivering a good Brexit deal against all the odds. And I think it's time for the SNP to stop agitating with their continuity bill, their wrecking bill, and actually get behind, do a deal with the United Kingdom government so we can get on and deliver a Brexit deal that works for the whole UK.
Theresa May has no clue what she's doing. She's struggling to keep her head above the water. The reality is that they're no closer than they were at the start of this process. The Irish situation, they've no idea how they're going to resolve that. Everything is fundamentally contradictory. It can't be done. On the economy, I've seen the secret UK government papers, and I'm sure you have. The reality of those is that the economic scenario in the UK government's own estimation ranges from a disaster to a complete meltdown. Scotland does particularly badly in all of those scenarios, and whatever happens, things are going to be far, far worse economically than they are just now. Everybody knows that. That's the reality, and they don't know what they're doing. Theresa May is struggling to stay in power and fight off all the different factions within her own party, and the rest of the country is having to suffer as a direct consequence of that incompetence.
OK, Andrew Bowie, on that particular point about issues that remain unresolved, there are these issues of the devolved powers, the issue of the border in Ireland. I mean, these can't be minimised. These are big issues, and these haven't been addressed yet.
Nobody's saying that they're not big issues, and nobody's saying that a lot of work isn't going to have to go on to actually find resolutions to them. However, what would help is if the SNP government actually took the time that they are devoting to their wrecking bill, the EU continuity bill, trying to manufacture a constitutional crisis for the United Kingdom, and actually worked with the UK government, came to a compromise, and actually worked out what UK frameworks would be best for British business, for Scottish jobs, for Scottish farmers after we leave the European Union.
Ivan McKee, is SNP trying to create a constitutional crisis?
It's the UK government that's created the constitutional crisis by driving us towards this crazy hard Brexit. That's the reality of it. For Andrew to try and pretend that somehow if the SNP changed its approach, somehow that would mean that Brexit would be wonderful is obviously transparent, complete nonsense. Everybody understands that. The UK Tory government got us into this mess. The SNP government is doing what they can to try and protect.
The British people voted to leave the European Union. We're delivering
Scotland's interest as best as possible, given the crazy situation we're in. The people of Scotland voted overwhelmingly to stay in the European Union. That's the reality. We need to protect those interests and stop the economic damage that's going to happen to Scotland as a consequence of the way Theresa May and her incompetent government are behaving.
OK, let Andrew Bowie respond to that.
I just think it's time that the SNP started to actually respect the democratic will of the people. In 2014, the Scottish people the Scottish people voted overwhelmingly to remain in the United Kingdom, and as a united kingdom, the people of Britain voted to leave the European Union in 2016, and that's what we're doing, and we're delivering as good a Brexit as possible for all four nations of the United Kingdom. And I think it's time for the SNP to come around the table to stop wasting time on their continuity bill, which, as I say, is manufacturing a constitutional crisis in the United Kingdom, and actually help us work with the Prime Minister to get a deal that works for the people and businesses of Scotland.
Nothing works with people. As good as possible means a complete disaster, and that's the reality of where we are. The job of the SNP Scottish Government is to protect the people of Scotland. Negative. Your own UK government papers, which you'll have seen as well as I have, show that the best case is a complete disaster and the worst case is far worse than that. That's the reality you've dragged us into. Our job is to do our best to protect the economic interests of the people of Scotland against this ridiculous situation you've got ourselves into.
Ivan McKee, if Scotland did become independent in the future, would you want Scotland to go straight back into the EU? Because Nicola Sturgeon seemed reluctant to answer that question in the Chamber today.
Well, there's a lot of things that have got to happen before we get to that situation. We said we've no idea what this Brexit's going to look like. Frankly, we've no idea whether Brexit's even going to happen because there's so many internal contradictions about the positions they're taking that this thing could quite easily come off the rails over the next few months. So let's wait and see where we end up. But of course, our best situation is for an independent Scotland to be a member of the European Union. That's where we want to get to. How we get there, how we get there is something that's got to be, it depends on where we end up as a consequence of the Brexit mess that the Tories have got ourselves into and where that ends up. OK,
Andrew Bowie, the former Prime Minister Tony Blair said today he thought it wasn't too late to stop Brexit. Do you think it's definitely going to happen?
Look, Brexit is happening. On March the 29th next year, Britain will be leaving the European Union, and 21 months after that, after the transition period, we will be free to create our own laws, be in charge of our own money, and create common frameworks and deliver on what the British people voted for in June 2016. We are leaving the European Union as of March 29th of next year. I know Ivan doesn't like to hear it, but that is the fact.
Ivan McKee, is that not just the fact of the matter now?
Well, as I said, it's quite possible that this thing could come off the rails because they don't know what they're doing and the level of competence is pretty shocking. But they're then going to go into a transition deal that we don't know what that looks like. But in reality, it's probably going to be effectively membership of the European Union in all but name. And then they're going to face some huge internal problems in the Tory party when Rees-Mogg, etc., on the far right of the Tory party realise they've been stitched up. And then they're going to have a whole internal battle in the Tory party. This thing's got a long, long way to run. Let's see what happens next.
We're going to have to leave it there. Fine. 1 year to go. I'm sure we'll be talking about it much, much more. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.